In the last few parts, we learned about how we can make use of string interpolation and property binding for passing the data from our component's logic to our template. Let us now react to events. But first, what is an event? Basically, event refers to an occurrence or an incident that happens in the browser, which can often be triggered by the user or by the browser itself. Basically, when a user interacts with a page, they generate events. Examples of event include clicking a button, pressing a key, resizing the window, or submission of a form, and many more. Now let's see how event binding facilitates this communication between the template and the component. And for that, I have opened the same project we created in the previous lectures. If you remember, we made this text box to be enabled or disabled conditionally using property binding. But we were still setting this isDisabled property manually from our component file. So in this video, instead of manually setting the isDisabled property, we will try to make this text box disabled or enabled dynamically. Let us see how. First, let's make this code a little clean. Let's remove this from here. Now the browser looks clean to me. Now, let's add a simple button here and push it to the next line using a BR tag. Cool. Let's open our component file, and for dynamically switching the state of this isDisabled property, let's create a method here and call it toggle text box, and inside it I'll simply toggle the isDisabled property like this, not isDisabled. This code will set the value of isDisabled property to true if it was false, or set it to false if it was true. Now let me copy this, go back to our template file, and bind this toggle text box with click event of the button we just added. Here, the event binding syntax is pretty simple and somewhat similar to property binding. Here, instead of property, we have the event name, which in our case is the click event, and it is enclosed in the parentheses like this, and then we bind it to the method we want to execute when the event gets triggered. So I'm putting it here, equals quotes, and paste. Simple. Now we are all set to witness the magic. But first, let me dry run this code for you. You see, we have a simple button here, and on click of this button, the click event is gonna trigger this toggle text box method, which will interact with our component logic, and then this method is going to toggle the value of this isDisabled property that is actually tracking the state of this text box. So now let's see it in action. Here, you see that the text box is currently disabled, and when I click this button, it got enabled. And again, if I click on this button, it got disabled. Again enable, again disable. So this was a simple demonstration for event binding in Angular. You can also experiment with event binding in your own projects like this and try capturing other available events like key press, mouse over, input changes, and there are many more. Thank you.